Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally learned the Raiders' commitment to head coach Antonio Pierce and why they are in win now mode. Plus, the quarterback competition is heating up on the first day of full live pads, full contact.
Somebody, like I keep going to it, somebody needs to take the bull by the horn.
Yep.
Say, I'm your guy.
And who better to get you ready for the first day of full live pads than none other than Richie Incognito? Yes. One of my favorite offensive guards in the John Gruden era gave a pre-pad speech to the offensive linemen the night before full contact with pads. This guy was pumping the offensive line up, knowing they're going to have to go against a tough defensive line with Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, and also Tyree Wilson, the former first-round pick who has the size and is making strides in year 2. Unfortunately, Incognito is no longer playing in the NFL, but I'm glad he's still out there supporting the Raiders. A big story is occurring with the running back room. You have the 6th-round pick of 2024, the rookie Dylan Lobby, out there getting first team reps today with full pads. Lobby, coming out of New Hampshire, excelled at the Senior Bowl, and he's a true pass-catching running back that has some burst and speed, and it looks like the Raiders may have found a diamond in the rough. If this guy is getting first-team reps already right now, that means the Raiders are getting a serious contributor in the 6th round of the NFL draft. That is huge to get that kind of production late. According to Vic Tafur of The Athletic, you had offensive coordinator Luke Getsy talking about Dylan Lobby, saying he's off to a great start, he has a great feel for it, and doesn't have the errors as far as what his responsibilities are. That's really cool to see from such a young guy. This is not bad news for running back Zamir White. This guy is going to be getting his carries, running in the inside, but on passing downs, expect to see a lot of Dylan Lobby. At practice today, you have Raiders owner Mark Davis hanging out with the general manager Tom Telesco, scouting these players, and Mark Davis looks like he lost a little bit of weight. He must not be hitting up PF Chang's that much anymore. We're going to talk about training camp reports, but I want to let you know, man, you cannot make too much of a big deal of these reports. Check this out. Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers threw 3 interceptions in the first padded practice with the Niners. Are the Niners going to move on from Brock Purdy? No. And this just goes to show you that it's just practice. People are going to make mistakes. That does not mean they're not going to be productive once the regular season starts. Hey, if the Niners want to get rid of Brock Purdy because he threw 3 picks, send his ass over to Las Vegas stat. Before padded practice, though, things have not been pretty for the Raiders quarterbacks. There's no way to deny it. However, the Raiders defense is one of the top defenses in the NFL. Keep in mind, this defense was number 1 in points allowed during the back half of the season with Antonio Pierce. So obviously, because they're 3 years into the system, because they are one of the top units in the NFL, they're going to be dominating against these Raiders quarterbacks. However, before the pads went on, Las Vegas Review-Journal writer Vinny Bonsignore said that the Raiders worked exclusively in the red zone, and then they went to a full field on Monday, expecting the quarterbacks to do better. Obviously, the QBs are going to do worse in the red zone. That's much harder for an offense to excel in the red zone. But when they went to a full field, it was the same theme. The defense got the best of Gardner Minshew and O'Connell when they did deal with pressure. I also think it's important to note that in these practices, a QB who makes quick reads, gets rid of the football quickly, typically does better than a guy who improvises, escapes from the pocket. Things are more scripted in practice, so I think preseason is really going to determine who's the guy you're going to see Gardner Minshew improvise compared to Aiden O'Connell. Things have been trending up for both of the quarterbacks since they have had live pads. Maybe the Richie Incognito speech really helped the offensive line. But according to Vinny B of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the Raiders QBs had more time to throw, and O'Connell had a nice completion to Jacoby Myers, and Minshew connected with Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end, on a deep crossing route. What's kind of interesting is that the Raiders are not doing joint practices this year. They're just going to be practicing against each other, and then they're going to have starters in the preseason game.
We'll play our starters and most of our guys in the first half of pretty much all the preseason games and go.
Usually preseason is boring as hell because it's people low on the depth chart, but this time it's going to be really, really lit. It's actually going to matter this time. It's actually going to be fun to watch, and we're going to find out who our starting QB is during that time. And one thing that's crazy is because they're not doing a joint practice, Antonio Pierce is having them go fully live, tackling to the freaking ground.
If you try to, add in a safety element to that of not tackling all the way to the ground, or is it going to be full?
It's for life. It's life. Football.
Some people say this could be dangerous for injuries. I think it's a good thing. I think you want to get off to a strong start. It's kind of lame that people don't tackle during practice because that's literally the most important thing in football. And it seems like the Raiders are going to be more acclimated to full live bullets compared to some of these other teams in the NFL. Head coach Antonio Pierce did make a statement about the quarterback competition though, man. Nobody has stepped up, and that's really disappointing because the Raiders did sign Gardner Minshew to a 2-year contract, $25 million. $15 million of that is fully guaranteed, and you would think that guy would step up substantially and show that he is the starting QB. He has more experience than Aiden O'Connell, but he hasn't done it. And you have Pierce saying, I'd like to see a QB just take it and say, I'm the guy, AP. Somebody needs to step up right here, right now, whether it be O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. Because nobody is stepping up, I think you have to give the edge to Aiden O'Connell because Gardner Minshew, as a veteran, should be showing it. In some ways, you can say the edge is in favor of Aiden O'Connell because Minshew has not stepped up and the guy's a veteran. He should really just be blowing this guy out of the water here. But at the same time, Gardner Minshew has the heavy investment with the contract. Improvising is his main game, and we have not been able to see that in these scripted practices like we will in preseason. The quarterbacks have been going 50-50 with first-team reps. Aiden O'Connell took the majority of the starting snaps at QB today with full pads, live bullets. Gardner Minshew got the majority of the starting reps on Monday without full pads, and apparently, according to Deshaun Reed of The Athletic, O'Connell was a little better today, but neither player performed well. But you have mixed messages and some of these reporters disagreeing on who did better. Case Kiefer of the Las Vegas Sun said that he thought Minshew was a little better than O'Connell, but still a long way to go in the QB race. And look, guys, I'm going to believe in Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. I'm going to root for them until my socks fly off. But what I'm about to reveal to you is going to show how the Raiders really are in win now mode. And I think Antonio Pierce, if he's not satisfied with either of these guys after a week of practice, I can see the Raiders bringing somebody in. Not a big signing. Maybe you trade for a backup QB. Whoever's losing the battle out of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Maybe trade for the Bears, Tyson Bagent. He worked well with Luke Getsy last year. That's a big possibility if both of these guys continue to be stale and nobody steps up. We now know the Raiders' commitment to Antonio Pierce, how much they're paying him, the length of his contract, thanks to this bankruptcy filing. Now, Antonio Pierce is making roughly $585,000 a month, which ends up being roughly $7 million a year. But this is before taxes. We know that taxes tend to screw all of us. $7 million a year before taxes puts him pretty high up, puts him above people like Matt LaFleur, like Robert Saleh as of right now. This is the data that we have on head coach contracts as of 2023. But the big question is, what is the length of the contract, right? In an article by Vic Tafur of The Athletic published last week, he wrote that Pierce, by most accounts, has a 2-year contract and is all in to win as soon as possible. So he has a 2-year contract, $7 million a year. And this is good news for Raiders fans because it shows that it's not a rebuild at all. Antonio Pierce is not going to start some young player just to develop them over time. No, he wants to win now to prove that he could be one of the top head coaches in the NFL. He doesn't have time to rebuild, doesn't have time to develop. And it seems like the Raiders are going to put all their chips in this year and next year. So this is also important when it comes to the quarterback competition. Whoever is better is going to start. Doesn't matter that Gardner Minshew is making more money. Doesn't matter that Aiden O'Connell's younger. Maybe you want to develop him. Antonio Pierce has only a little bit of time to show that he's the guy. Remember, the Raiders were closing in on a deal to sign Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator, but he pulled out because they weren't willing to give him a 3-year contract. And this makes sense because Antonio Pierce, by all accounts, has a 2-year contract. So I think this puts more pressure on offensive coordinator Luke Getsy. If the offense does not work out this year, that's really not on Antonio Pierce. He's not running that side of the football, and he already wanted to pursue somebody like Cliff Kingsbury. So Luke Getsy has to prove himself now because with this 2-year contract with Pierce, if it doesn't work out, he's going to find a different coordinator that will work out. My name is Wi-Fi Willie. We will be live during the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, and I hope to see you there. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.